Well, I guess welcome to the inaugural episode of What's Your Theory?
What's your theory?
The world needs another conspiracy theory podcast hosted by two white guys
Oh, yeah.
on the internet.
I mean, would now be the time to tell them where we're from?
Yeah, Southwest Virginia, the very southwestern tip. I mean, people think that Virginia kind of disappears after Roanoke when you're coming west, but there's actually quite a bunch more land past that line.
That's true. Would you say we're more Tennessee or Kentucky, though?
I mean, I've always considered myself more Tennessee if we were going to look at
Yeah.
it that way. I'd never found myself going into Kentucky a whole lot.
That's true.
I know a lot of people who go over into Middlesboro because it's about the same length of a drive
Yeah.
into Northeast Tennessee, but I think I've gone over there 5 times
Okay, so
that I can at least remember.
another conspiracy theory podcast by two white guys, but this time they're an extension of Tennessee,
Yeah,
which
pretty
is
much.
a beautiful, beautiful cross section of culture and
If you want to call it that.
culture.
A loose term for calling it culture, but I guess it is.
Okay.
But it's interesting to I guess to pick the minds of southern people who maybe don't live near, I guess, the finer things in life. I'm trying to not really make our area sound completely horrible.
Oh, it's okay. I think sometimes you got to talk the truth.
Yeah, to put it in perspective, I feel like anywhere else in Virginia where you live, you're at least 20 minutes away from civilization. But I guess where we are, you have to drive an hour in any direction to get to any sort of like normal
Yeah.
life experience.
And this is just going to be a sidebar because you say like an hour away from like semblance of civilization. So the moment that I realized like how bad it was so what we're really talking about is Kingsport, Tennessee, Johnson City, Tennessee.
Right.
So
Arguably, I would say,
yeah.
as made famous by the song Wagon Wheel.
Yeah.
I feel like people know at least the name Johnson City, Tennessee.
Okay. So you got Johnson City, Tennessee. So to me, at least when I was younger, I was like, man, that's popping. That's a big place.
That's the city right there.
Yeah.
It's right there in the name, Johnson City.
So, and then Reddit came along in my life. And, of course, you've got so many subreddits that are, very specific. And I can't remember. I think it was an East Tennessee subreddit. And they were talking about Knoxville. Yeah.
Okay.
And they were like, yeah, this picture was taken right outside of Knoxville, a quarry. And they're like, oh, man, you Eastern Tennesseans and your beautiful landscapes. And then somebody was like, what are you talking about? East Tennessee is awful. Johnson City is a shithole and like all this stuff. And then somebody else came in like, yeah, for the past few years, it's just been going downhill bad. There's like nobody there. And then I was like new to Reddit. So I commented, I was like, man, what do you guys think of Southwest Virginia and Lee County? And they were like,
Where?
No, they literally went, I'm sure Johnson City looks like a thriving metropolis compared to the towns of Lee County. I remember when they got when one town got a red light put in and people were confused for weeks.
It really is insane how behind the times this area can be. But I mean, we don't let it stop us, I guess. We still make the 45-minute hour drive to Olive Garden, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, that's true. Why attract an Olive Garden to you when you could just take a whole day to go to Olive Garden?
Yeah. Because you really, any time you want to actually go out and do something, it really is a whole day kind of experience. You have to clear out your whole day. Because you're going to be on the road traveling to Target. For a Target trip, you're going to be on the road for at least 2 hours or over 2 hours, depending on where all you go.
That's true.
Imagine a world where a Target trip, you can get there in like 30 minutes on the road tops, 15 minutes there, 15 minutes back.
See, I already know that life because I was at ETSU for like a year.
Oh, yeah.
It was an awful experience coming back. I mean, I love it like around here, and there's reasons why I left ETSU, but like being able to just go like, hey, I want to go to the mall today and just hang out.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
When I'm an old elderly man, my exercise is gonna be walking around the mall like I see all the old people at Fort Henry Mall. Or is it still called Fort Henry
I think
Mall?
it is, even though it's a shell
Yeah,
of
there's
its former self.
it's a huge building. There's at least 3.5 stores in there. And anytime I'm there, it's just full of the elderly making their laps
Yeah.
around the place.
Power walking, which and it really is unfortunate. And I know we're gonna get back on track here in a second, but it's so unfortunate that like they remodeled like the entire interior of the mall.
And it looks good.
It looks great. It's like if I were in Kingsport, I would be like, yeah, this would be the place to hang out. But there's nothing in there.
You don't go to you go to a mall and you think about like wall space. There should be a store. There should be like liminal wall space. There should be maybe a foot's worth of the wall visible between like each store. You should go into a mall and be like, wow, there's just things everywhere. At Fort Henry Mall, like I said, there's like 10 stores and just so much empty wall space with like, I want to say that they took just random quotes that anyone from Kingsport has ever said, blow it up to like size 115 font and throw it up on the wall. Because like, well, we got to put something here. And it can't be a store. This is a mall, for God's sake. We can't put stores in here. I don't know. But trust me, I've got some theories on that. But
Yeah.
I think to start out with, we won't do the deep cut theories as to why Northeast Tennessee's economic system is seemingly out of whack. We'll start off a little bit easier and talk about things like ghosts and demons
Oh, that seems pretty easy.
and aliens.
You know, something completely not personal and has nothing to do with your belief systems at all.
Right. And I always hear podcasts like this, and you hear people talk about things, and like, even if it is in like our situation, just, you know, to anyone else, two random guys talking about, like, I don't have a degree in demonology or anything like that, but I don't think I've ever heard any sort of entertainment where it's people from the area where we're from talking about stuff like this. Because a lot of times people look at this area and automatically assume that everyone's dumb or, you know, just doesn't know much about anything.
Right. And I think, I mean, that says a lot about just the stigma around it. But again, not going to get into that today. Today. But
it's just good. Let's people need to hear some good old Southern boys talk about.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've been out
ghosts.
in the wilderness, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I mean, grew up. I think I know where you grew up.
I grew up right in Pennington.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's pretty far from civilization. That's really close to hunting, fishing, whatever. I mean, I don't know if you're the hunting and fishing type, but
Never really got into that scene. Everyone else around me always was, but
well, I mean, I'm sure you got dragged on a couple of hunting trips.
I don't think so.
Really?
The only time I think I ever really done anything substantial with guns even was my uncle used to go hunting all the time, but I never went with him. But he also used to go this is going to sound, I'm going to try to explain it in a way that sounds cool because it's going to sound uncool, but it was one of the most cool things I've ever done. But he just had a bunch of buddies and they all dressed up like they were from the Old West.
Okay.
And they had this field out over, oddly enough, towards the Kingsport area, where they had like old saloon buildings and like everyone went there, called each other by like their cool outlaw names.
Okay.
And it was just target practice pretty much. You would go up to these little stations, and this station might be a rifle station. And everyone had to have like a repeater rifle, like era-specific guns, I guess. And like everyone shoots at targets, and at the end of the day, they announce who the fastest person was, and they might get like a little prize or something.
That's actually amazing.
It was just a bunch of cool, forgive me, old people dressed like they're in some spaghetti western, and we're all just shooting at targets. It was so fun. But I've never actually been hunting, surprisingly.
Well, hiking plenty, I'm sure.
Hiking. a ton for sure, but never.
So, I mean, it's safe to say there's plenty out in them woods.
Yeah, I feel like I've at least like to think that I've heard a Bigfoot out there knocking on some trees or something.
Okay. And then that's just cryptids. I mean, like, think about, I'm sure grandparents, whatever, familial ties are key around here.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've heard story upon story about ghosts or demons. I want to ask you this question. So has your family, like anyone in your family, ever sat you down and been like, okay, if there's a ghost or a demon that you think's haunting you, this is what you need to do?
No.
Really?
Not really. I think in my situation, I was more or less terrified of the thought that maybe one day I would become possessed.
Okay.
But at the same time, like, I grew up in a pretty religious family. Like, we were always going to church and everything. So my knowledge of ghosts was that, okay, so I know when you die, you go to heaven. Or, the other
bad
place. But, like, I think that there's also still ghosts do have a story to tell that I think kind of solidified my belief in at least something remains here, I guess. I don't know. Do you want me to go ahead and jump into the story, or do we want to wait?
Yeah, okay. I think we'll start our first category. So we're going to go ghosts and demons.
Ghosts and demons. I guess that's a good place to start, because I think we're going to talk about a few different things. Ghosts and demons we kind of lumped up into one section. And we've already talked a little bit about cryptids, but we'll dive into that a little bit more, and then aliens, I guess, right? We'll talk about.
I think if you go like ghosts and demons, probably has the most. It's up there with aliens, but I think it's probably the most.
I think so.
People believe in ghosts, but I think a lot of people that believe in ghosts maybe don't believe in Bigfoot.
And I feel like everyone at least has one ghost story.
Yeah.
But not everyone has a Bigfoot story.
Exactly.
Or a UFO story even.
Okay, so
I have a few. I've had a few like paranormal things happen. At least I think paranormal things happen in my life. But I think the one that really solidified something for me. Forgive me, I have to bring the mood down to set up the stage. But my papa had recently passed away. My grandfather, for anyone who's not from this area, I would say I have like 10 close friends maybe.
Okay.
And I think out of those 10 close friends, 10 of them call their grandparent by a different name. I've always used Papa, but I know some people who, Papa's a weird word for them, but Mama and Papa, man, that's,
Don't want to interject, but has that ever because I the same thing, like I know that 10 different people call 10 different things. Do you ever feel self-conscious when you're like, oh yeah, my Papa, and then you're like, oh wait, they may not understand what I'm saying, or they may think it's weird that I say that?
Yeah, I find myself like making the conscious decision to say like grandfather or grandparent.
Yeah.
And I get mad at myself kind of because I'm like, no, I mean that's my Papa. There's nothing else. But I digress, I guess.
Alone. Okay.
But my Papa had recently passed away, and he had been working on this car. I can't even remember what car it was, but I just remember it being like this god awful, like bright blue color. And it kind of stayed at my mama and papa's driveway. He never got it up and running, but it kind of like, it was just kind of collecting dust there.
Yeah.
And it was maybe like a week or so after he had passed, and growing up, the house that my parents still live at is right beside where my grandparents lived, which is where my aunt lives now. So we were neighbors pretty much for most of my life. And we're sitting over at my house, and my mama calls, I'm pretty sure the home phone at this time, that's how long ago this was, and asked Mom if she had just pulled into Mama's house, or if she could look out the window to see if anyone had stopped by. Mom kind of thought it was weird. She looked out the window, but it didn't look like anyone had stopped in, whatever. So we kind of go out on our porch and look over, and we could see my mama in the door at her porch also kind of looking out. And it was that car that my papa had been working on, and the headlights were on. So we're like, oh, okay, well, weird.
Yeah.
let's go fix it or whatever. And so my dad walks over there. In his mind, he's just going to walk over and unhook the battery. We get over there, however, and pop the hood, and there's no battery in the car. And like at that point in my mind, because I was real young, but I have this vivid picture of all of us kind of standing there in the dark, just like,
Yeah.
you know, like that is kind of odd. And you know, my mama with that southern, no, that's just Ben watching over us. And I put my hand on the hood of the car and I said, "Papa," and the lights went off.
Wow.
And you could hear like a pin drop. We were outside, like if crickets were chirping at that moment, they stopped chirping. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like dead silence. And I remember just like not really being scared, but I mean obviously felt some sort of comfort. And I kid you not, I had my hand still on the car, and I said "Papa" again, and they came on. And so none of us really freaked out. We all kind of just like had this silent agreement with each other that like, you know, he's okay, I guess. And then Dad cut some wires or something until they went off again. And I think my aunt's son-in-law came and like took that car or something.
Yeah.
I don't know where it ended up, but that's probably the story that makes me at least believe that some form of energy is left here when you're gone, I guess.
Wow.
I tell that story a lot, to be honest, because I mean, I've yet to have anything really happen to me like that, or to that level of unexplainability.
And like, I assume that's like the closest you've ever been, like firsthand. Like,
yeah. Other than like, you know, stories here and there, or like that's one story that other paranormal stories that I have, I could probably think of reasons other than paranormal activity that they could have happened, but that was one that like there was no battery in the car. Maybe there was some juice left in it, because like I'm pretty sure Dad cut some wires or something, but for the lights to go on and off as soon as I said, you know, the word "Papa," I mean, that kind of that's something a little too coincidental. Yeah.
That's crazy. Okay, so we'll keep that in mind, and then I will tell. I've got a couple of stories. Do you have more than one?
The only other, like, you know where Elk Knob is, right? Elk Knob, to anyone listening who doesn't know, is an elementary school back in, well, where we grew up pretty much. And there's like an old church behind there. There's like an old church behind there. And this, I don't know if we were seniors. I guess we had to have been seniors in high school. Me and a couple of my buddies went back to that church because we heard that they never keep the doors locked or anything. So we just wanted to go and have a peek, see what all was left in there. And I mean, as far as abandoned churches go, I mean, it was pretty creepy. We walked in, and it's almost like as if like everyone had just like left at once, because there were still like Bibles like there was a Bible at the altar, like at the preacher's stand, still open, and there were hymnals everywhere. I even think we found some like someone's military like memorabilia. There were some like discharge papers or something in there.
Oh, wow.
And the only thing that really happened in there, and this is why I don't really think it is paranormal, because I think we were pretty spooked before we even stepped in. Because anytime you're going up to a creepy abandoned church, I don't think you're like, oh yeah, I don't think anything will happen. But it sounded like someone had like thrown a rock or something in a corner, but the sound almost like traveled along the edges of the ceiling, and it was like it sounded like it happened over there, but like you could almost follow the sound, and it like made a loud sound up by our ears, and we just kind of like power walked our way out of there and was like, shut the door on the way out, don't go back in there.
Okay.
But nothing really as hard hitting as that time with my papa's car.
Okay, so is that just ghosts, or is that demons too? Like anything?
Don't think I've had the pleasure
demonic
and I'm glad that's not an open invitation to any demons tuning in. But I'm also the biggest wuss over stuff like that. That stuff scares me to like pieces.
You see, I'm the same way, but I'm like also weirdly curious.
I am too, but my curiosity always makes me think, well, that's what'll get you in trouble. If the movie was happening of your life right now, the moment you get too curious is the moment that like you accidentally utter the incantation that you shouldn't be reading in the first place. You know what I mean? But I wish I had a demon story, but at the same time, I'm very glad I don't.
Okay.
Do you have demon stories?
Maybe. I don't know. It's one of those things where I could not tell you if it was definitely a demon or if it was just an upset ghost. Which, I mean, there's kind of...
How can you tell the difference?
Exactly.
I feel like if I was a ghost, I would pretend to be a demon just to screw with people.
Yeah. So, I'll tell my stories and then we can...
Yeah.
We'll
confer.
Converse about that. Okay, so I'm going to kind of... I've got them here. I think I'll kind of build up. We're not going to go straight, like, full demon.
Okay.
So, let me think. I think most of this occurred after my uncle had died. So, kind of similar themes today.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I know that's heavy subject from both of us, but that's the one thing everyone has to do to become a ghost, I guess.
that is true. Okay, so I think I'll start pretty early with my uncle and I. We had like a really interesting relationship. We were really close pretty much my entire life. He was like Superman to me, and everything, but he was one of those people, especially around here. I don't know how it is in other places where like family members are a little bit rough on children sometimes. Like they're just a little like, they like to scare them, like to, you know. And I think around here it's a lot of like trying to push them out of it, like push you out of your comfort zone and kind of make you, you know, stand up for yourself and kind of stuff like that.
Less timid. Yeah.
And, you know, maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. I'm not here to say whether or not that's true, but he was very much like that. He was, he would, you know, wrestle me around. He would kind of hold me like, and I was scared of the dark as a kid, and he would kind of like hold me in the dark. And
one of those,
like
do you know how to swim?
Yeah,
no, sir. Throws you in the river.
Yeah.
You're going to learn today.
But the reason I asked you the question earlier about, like, if you ever had a family member, like, sit down and be like, hey, if this is happening, like, this is what you do.
Oh, gosh.
So, I can't remember. I don't even know what prompted this, like, experience, but we're sitting in his room, and he's like, you know what? If a demon or a ghost is ever bothering you, you know what you should say? And I was like, no. I mean, and we were you know, it's very religious around here, so it's he was like, let me see, I can never forget these words, so I gotta make sure I get them right. But it's like, what in the name of the Father, the Holy Ghost, and the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, what do you want with me? And then like leave, and they're supposed to leave. I think, I don't know.
That's a pretty confusing command, though. You're asking him, what do you want with me? And then immediately tell him to leave. I mean,
yeah, I don't know. You know, apparently it works. And he would tell me stories about how, like, he would see, like, people, like, at the door and then open the door and nobody would be there. So I don't know if I ever really believed that. But, I mean.
Where'd your uncle live?
St. Charles.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I want to put a pin in that for a second.
Okay. So he did tell me one story, and I think I may have had a similar experience. So where we lived, it was kind of like there was a creek that had like a side road and then the main road, and then we lived kind of like in that square.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of.
Okay.
So he told me that on the road that ran beside the creek, there would be a car that would always drive up and down, but, you know, it would disappear after it got around the curve. And I was like, yeah, whatever, you know? I mean, I was probably like 10, so I mean, I was probably like, oh my God, what do you mean?
Ghost car, phantom.
Yeah. But, so this is sometime after he passed. I couldn't tell you. And my mom was out doing something. I don't know, you know, that's another thing that we'll get into at some point, I'm sure, but so it was late. I mean, probably 12 o'clock. And I was up, and I was just waiting for my mom to get home. I was looking out the windows, like, you know, usually she gets home around this time. And, like, I saw in the driveway, I saw a car pull up. And we didn't have a gate at the time, but we had like a little building that you could see the driveway, and then car would come along, and then they would, have to go behind the building to get closer to the house.
Right.
And I was like, okay. I saw the car pull up and go behind the building. And I went outside because I was like, Mom, and then nothing was there. And then I went back out and looked at the window. Excuse me. Nothing was there. Like, there's no place to turn around in our driveway. It's a gravel driveway.
Is it the same house?
Yeah. Like,
interesting.
The only place that they could have turned around was the house next door, but they had passed that.
Right.
And there was literally no place to turn around other than in front of our house, which I would have seen had I...
Because they would have had to pull into the actual, like, driveway.
Yeah.
Like the patio area, I guess.
Yeah.
And do, like, a K-turn and
leave. And then even then, when I went back to the window, they wouldn't have had time to get completely out of the driveway for me to not see them.
Dang.
And so I remember, like, that just freaked me out. I mean, I didn't never really say, like, yeah, that was a ghost or whatever, but I immediately remembered that story. And then with that story, which was kind of funny, because I was always, like, a pretty scared little kid. I was, like, easy to scare.
Oh, same.
So, like, whenever I would think about something paranormal, I would just think of, like, what in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit are you doing? And I would just be like, that would comfort me for some reason. But so I would say that, and, like, it would be, suddenly better. And this one was probably it's probably the least paranormal, but it was the most significant to me at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So this was right after my uncle had passed. I mean, maybe a couple of weeks, like not long at all. Maybe like right after the service even. I can't even remember.
Okay.
But the phone would ring, and I'll just say his name. The phone would ring, and you'd look at it, and it'd be Tim Mullins. And it would be our phone number. And you'd answer it, and nobody would be there. But the thing is, like, our phone wasn't registered in his name. The house was, like, calling itself under his name. And it was so weird. And it did this probably 3 or 4 times that I can remember I saw it.
See, it's things like that.
Yeah.
That is just like...
And granted, like, somebody could have, like, made an elaborate cruel prank. I'm not saying they didn't. There's no reason to.
Yeah. Who would?
I mean, some sort of glitch at the phone company. I mean...
But even then, for it to just randomly glitch up in that moment...
Yeah.
To be that coincidental of a glitch, things like that are what make me question reality.
Yeah. And... I don't know, that I vividly remember that a lot. But this story here, I think
this is the
story that where I was like, I'm full believer. You can't, like, I don't know, I don't think you could really talk me out of believing a lot now. I mean, like, there's only so far I'll go, but like most stuff I'll be like, yeah, that probably could have happened. I believe it.
Right.
Okay, so this is a long story, so you might want to just get settled in. Okay. So this was my freshman year of college. So, I mean, just a couple of years ago, right before COVID.
Typical demon days.
Yeah,
typical early college days.
So we were back in sometime in the fall. It was Halloween, actually, of course.
Let me tell you, it's all coming together pretty nice.
And every once in a while, I mean, I don't have many friends, but I like to, get them together and we'd have just a little bonfire. I mean, I'm not like a party or anything, so we didn't drink. We never had any alcohol. It was just us sitting around.
That's another thing about this area too. Bonfires are rampant, and you don't have to drink at all the bonfires.
Yeah.
Half of the fun is just starting the fire.
Yeah. But we made these. Okay, so this is just going to be, if you've ever played Skyrim, and like the giant, like just like that, and that's what we tried aimed for every single time.
Okay.
Taller than me, going. Okay. So I was like, hey guys, what about a Halloween bonfire? And everybody was like, yeah, that's cool. Yeah. So we got the food ready and all that, and I was like, well, hey, this where we're making the fire is like not far from the house. I mean, it's just like all the way down at the end of the yard. You've seen it.
Yeah.
I mean, we live. I'll kind of make it a little bit. Like, I'll make a little explanation. We live right in between two mountains, and if you're from around here, it's what's called a holler.
A holler.
I don't know what else to call it.
Haunted holler.
Haunted holler. If you go back, kind of the mountains kind of turn and make, just kind of goes back into the mountains. So our yard kind of goes all the way back until the mountains turn, so to speak. And like right there, that's where we'd make the fire. We could still see the house, but it's all the way at the end of the yard. We weren't going to be like, messed with by parents.
Close to home, but still away enough from everything where you can have quite the blaze.
Yeah. So I was like, hey, it's Halloween. I like getting spooked. Pulled up another podcast, great podcast, Scared to Death. And I had this, at the time, this was my favorite episode because it just sent chills down my spine every single time. And it was about, it's about the story that was the inspiration for The Exorcist.
I'm already shaking in my boots. That stuff, exorcisms and possessions are not my cup of tea.
Yeah. So we might have to listen to this episode together because it's
I was about to say, you have to send me a link.
It's a doozy. It's a great one. But anyways, and it has just this great moment of storytelling where it really is just sends chills down your spine, and I was like, yeah, it got me scared every time. I'm like, that's the perfect one. We'll listen to that one.
Nothing can go wrong.
So I think everybody arrived around 8:00, and we were out at the bonfire, and I'm going to just remember where we're at, and then I'm going to back up a little bit, and I'm going to give you a little bit of, what's the word, context. So this was about a full year after my mama had died. So we lived with her, and she had Alzheimer's, and we took care of her, and up until she passed away. She had this cat, his name was Patton. He was the biggest, like, fluffiest cat you've ever seen.
Seen pictures of Patton, yeah.
And he's just a fluff ball, and she loved that cat. We had multiple cats, but she loved that one, even when, like, her mind wasn't working, and she couldn't remember anybody. She knew Patton.
Right.
And so she had passed away about a year ago, but we still had Patton, and that was kind of like having, like, a piece of her. It was great. But we were out there at the bonfire, and we were just kind of chilling out, doing whatever. At the time, it was myself, my friend Chandler, Jacob, Lauren, Tyler, Zach, and my girlfriend at the time. So we're just chilling out, and I'm sitting next to Jacob, and we listen to that story, and I'm hyped up, and then it dies down, and we're like, okay, and we're just chatting, and we're shooting the breeze, whatever. I can't even remember what we were talking about, and I see Jacob, he's looking at something. He's looking back down at the house, and you can see into the kitchen from down there. You can see into the kitchen, and my mom had not left for work. She worked nights at the time. So she was in her room getting ready, and we were looking into the kitchen, and we saw, like, this dark shadow, like, peering out from the side of the window and just waving. And I said, looked at Jacob, and I said, Jacob, what is that? And he was just silent, and we were both looking at it, and I said, Jacob, what is that? And then I got a little bit loud. I was like, Jacob, what the fuck is that? And it was just waving. And then so we got everybody's attention. We were all looking down there, and we were still kind of seeing it. Me and Jacob were the only two that were like, what is that? The other were like, what are you guys looking at?
See, that I would also be in the other group pretending to not see it and being like, guys, what? Just watch the fire, please. Don't notice it. So, and then it kind of stopped, and Jacob and I were like, kind of like looking at each other, and then we continued to look at the window because we were like, we're trying to figure out a logical explanation for this. And then we see this, everybody saw. Everyone that night will corroborate this part. We saw something go grab the curtain, peek its head out, and then go back. Everybody saw that. And that's whenever Tyler, he's a bit more timid. He's like, I want to leave. And I was like, that's fair enough. Yeah. I think I'd have already been walking my way home. So I mean, it was about midnight at this point. So understandable. I was like, yeah, it was probably time for everybody to get going. So we got up and put the fire out. And we're walking back down. And me and Jacob were just talking. We're like, what? You saw that too, right? Like,
something was like waving. I was like, maybe it was my mom. Maybe. So maybe 15, took us 15 minutes to put out the fire. And we go back down, and Tyler leaves, Chandler leaves, and, well, Tyler and Zach leave because Zach was his ride. But they leave, and we're in the kitchen, and my mom comes through, and I'm like, hey, were you in here, like, I don't know, 15 minutes ago? She's like, no, I've been in my room getting ready for the past 30 minutes. Excuse me. I mean, my mom takes forever to get ready, so that's...
Checks out.
So I was like, all right. And we told her what happened, and she was like, oh, that's weird. You think it could have been one of the cats? And I was like, kind of, but, like, it didn't, like, I know what the cats look like from a distance, and it wasn't the cats. And Jacob knows, too. Jacob's been to my house a million times.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, too, where it's like, they always say, like, for paranormal investigations and stuff, it's always better to go into a place not knowing any stories or, like...
Yeah.
Because if I'm about to walk into a hotel and I'm like, I've read all the stories about how this is the most famous, like, infamously haunted hotel.
Yeah.
My mind's, like, automatically going to make myself try to pick out, like, any random noise in a hotel that I hadn't heard was haunted.
Yeah.
Would now be like like, what is that? Like, what could that be? But for something as, like, if you saw something, grab at the curtain,
Yeah.
pull it to peek around, even if it was a cat. Because I know where you're talking about, and I know the window in that kitchen, too.
Yeah.
I don't even know if you were that far out, if you would even be able to tell that a cat was by the window that well.
I mean, I don't think so either. And so the story goes on. We're not even at the creepiest part yet.
Oh, God.
So, my mom goes to work, so it's about 1 a.m. Jacob and Lauren had stayed behind a little bit because they always did, and we just, kind of chatted. And Jacob, because he's Jacob, you know him, he's brash, and he brings out a Bible, and he starts reading somewhere in Revelations for whatever reason, like, Revelation, seriously? And the light flickers. But, I mean, that's, like, I dismiss that, because, like, that light has flickered for my entire life, so, like, unlikely that was anything. But, we took Jacob and Lauren home.
I would have also took him home after that, too.
Yeah.
Like, nope, you're out of here.
But we took them home, and it was just me and my girlfriend at the time, and we were driving back, and I remember it was maybe 5 minutes before we got there. I just got this wave of, like, dread of, like, I don't want to go back there. I couldn't explain it, of just, like, I feel it now, like, as I'm talking about it, like,
there's something off.
I don't want to go back. I don't want to stay there by myself, because, like I said, my mom worked nights. She wouldn't have been back until 8 o'clock in the morning. I was like, I told Sydney, I was like, I don't want to go back. She's like, it's okay. I'll stay with you and it'll be fine. And I was like, I still don't want to. Like, I had, like, tears, like, welling up in my eyes. I couldn't figure out why, but I was just like, I don't want to do it. So golly. We pull in, and I'm just like, okay, get everything that we need from the car, and we're just going straight inside. Don't linger out here. Just go straight inside. And so we did. We went inside incredibly fast. I can't express how quickly I opened and shut the door.
Straight to your room.
And we went to my mom's room because we had the dogs, and they stayed, like, when they slept in my mom's room. And I was like, hey, we're going to sleep in my mom's bed with the dogs.
Yeah.
Makes me feel better. And she was fine with that. So, again, we went in there incredibly fast. Went to my mom's room, got everything set up, went to bed. Probably 2 a.m. at this point. And I couldn't sleep very well. I mean, it was...
I'm sure.
Like, I don't know. I just couldn't go to sleep. And I had finally convinced myself, like, calm myself down enough that I could, like, lightly sleep. And it felt like maybe 5 minutes. I don't know what time it was. But our dog, Lucy, German Shepherd, starts freaking out. Just barking like crazy. And she doesn't do that unless she, like, hears somebody. And I was like, how somebody could be, like... on the road walking, like, I don't know, it's a weird place. People do that, and she's taking a fit, and I try to calm her down. I'm like, please, not right now. And of course this has spiked my anxiety to new levels, and so I got her to calm down, but she just keeps looking at the door, and I don't like it. She just keeps looking at the door, and get her to calm down, and then we'd go to sleep for a couple minutes, and she'd start up again, and it was like that for the whole night. I mean, I assume there's at one point she stops and I got maybe a couple hours of sleep. But it was like that the whole night. And my mom wakes us up and she's like, what are you guys doing in here? I was like, I'll explain later. And she was like, okay, where's Patton? And I was like, what do you mean, where's Patton? And she's like, yeah, I can't find him in the house anywhere. I was like, what? And we looked around, we couldn't find him. We looked outside, we couldn't find him. And I was like, he'll come back. I mean, it'll be fine. He'll come back. And, because, I mean, he's gotten out before. It's happened. But, again, there shouldn't have been a way for him to get out. We came in so quickly that it
wouldn't have had time to slip past you.
Yeah. And even if he did, this next part. So I think it was the next day. I'm kind of blurry on it because I was so tired that maybe I went to sleep and then she woke me up.
Yeah.
It was still the same day. But I think it was the next day. She woke me up right when she got home. Yeah, I think it was because it was really early in the morning. And she was like, Will. And I was like, what? And she's like, Patton's dead. And I was like, what? And she's like, I found him. He's in the creek. And I was like, what? And it was, it was October, so it was a little cold. Like, I mean, and we went down there and we got like trash bag and we like brought him up. And I at first thought that like he must have like fallen in the creek and drowned or something. His neck was snapped. Like head, like he had been in there so his like body was like rigid, but his head was just flopping around, like his neck just completely broken.
Oh my God.
And we buried him and that was that. But I genuinely think that something that night took him and killed him. And there were no marks, nothing on his body, just snapped neck in the creek.
Listen, I know about Patton. I've been told stories about Patton, and I know how loved of a cat Patton was, but I don't think I've ever been told the story of how he died.
Yeah.
And that sends shivers down my spine. That's terrifying.
Yeah. And since then, I've never been able to feel comfortable in the house alone at night. Like, I mean, nothing has ever really happened. I think ever since then, there was one occasion where I thought I heard like footsteps in the living room.
Yeah.
But nothing where I was like, yeah, that's, like, I still can't explain that, and I still feel just so weird being there at night, being outside at night around there. I don't know. I can't explain it.
It is a bit strange. But that I said earlier I was putting a pin in the whole St. Charles thing anyway. These aren't my stories, but my best friend when I was growing up, his name was Eric. His family lived up in St. Charles, like towards Puckett's Creek and stuff like that area.
Yeah.
And he always told me stories about how he would be playing in his house, and one day he thought he heard something outside, and he looked out the door or like the window or something, and he always said that he remembers seeing a lady like kind of run by, but it looked like she was wearing like, he called them at the time like pilgrim clothes, okay. But I assume just like old colonial clothing, I guess. I don't know. And he always told me stories about how his dad always felt like some sort of like, he always felt like this dark weight, I guess, on his shoulders. Yeah. And would see like shadow figures up in that way. And it makes me wonder about like, St. Charles is it used to be such a sprawling place, like had theaters and like pool halls, and I read an article today, said back during like certain time periods, the streets would be so full of cars because they would all be parked at the sides, and like the sidewalks would be overflowing with people. They said it like looked like scenes from New York City. Yeah. And if you drive through St. Charles now, it's just like a desolate. Yeah. It looks like scenes from like a post-apocalyptic. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it makes me wonder if like, and this is going like crazy theorist mode, but like I wonder if St. Charles is just cursed. Yeah. Because I always hear like, and this might sound weird, but even driving into St. Charles and being in the area, it just feels like a.
Different.
It feels like a. I don't want to say it feels haunted, but I guess it does. Like there's something about it that's just.
There's something about, and I think that I can kind of like something about the people who have been there for a long time. Like if you just look at their lives, it's so weirdly like similar and like tragic.
Yeah.
In a way. And I don't mean like nobody can be happy around there. Like there are plenty of happy people, but like there's so much tragedy in every single person's life in that area. And like I can't think of a person that I know from St. Charles that hasn't had something awful happen.
Yeah, or at least have had like awful things happen in their families.
Yeah.
Or like, yeah, I don't know. It's definitely a strange energy up that way.
Yeah.
I drove up there not too long ago to my dad's mom. She used to live at the very top of what they call Webb Hill.
Yeah.
Webb is my last name. A lot of Webbs are from St. Charles. We'll talk about that some other time, I'm sure, too. But I drove up there to see her house, and, like, I didn't know. No one had told me, but, like, I got up there, and it had burned down. And it just looked like it was all overgrown, like, unrecognizable.
Yeah.
And I remember, because I got out of my car just to, like, kind of take it in, I guess, and, like, look around. But even up on that mountain, you're kind of in the woods, and there's people's houses all up the mountain, but at the very top, you're kind of farther away from all the other houses. But, like, I was by myself. I got out of my car to just look around and take a picture, and the whole time I just felt like I was being watched.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's a good way to talk about St. Charles.
Yeah.
Even just driving through it, the entire time I'm in St. Charles, I just feel like I'm being watched.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think, and it's very weird because I always have like very similar like dreams. If I dream about like St. Charles or like that house, they're always very similar. I've had this one reoccurring dream that I have no idea where it came from. Like, every time in the dream, I'll look out like the front door, and like it's just the driveway, and then the mountain just goes up, and every single time it's just these like red glowing eyes from the
bushes and
yeah,
like
from the bushes.
Yeah.
And I mean nothing ever happens, but I wake up and it's just strange. Can't explain it.
It is, yeah. And I mean, I feel like if like my parents decided to, because I lived in St. Charles when I was first born, like I want to say the first year or 2 years of my life I've lived in St. Charles, and even then, when they brought me home, I'm pretty sure there was like a big blizzard, and we were like kind of snowed in. And they tell me stories about how at one point this rat had like gotten into the house somehow, and it was just like kind of crazed.
Yeah.
And I don't think I can remember it. I have visions of it, but I want to say that I've like painted them in my mind myself, and I'm like putting that in the place of like that memory. But there's just we got out of St. Charles, and like the weird stuff kind of just started or stopped happening.
Yeah, no, I agree. And then
that would be a good episode. We should like research St. Charles.
Yeah.
And do an episode about it. See if we can find some. I'm sure
Some
there's
interesting
tons of haunted
I'm sure
places up in St. Charles, man.
That does bring me. I did forget one thing. I do think that our current house may be haunted. I don't know.
I'm not gonna lie. The few times I've been there, I never feel bad, but
yeah,
there's always there's a little uneasiness.
And I can't explain it. And if Kinley ever listens to this, she's gonna be like, "I told you." But like, at night especially, if we've gone to bed, there's always some weird noise going on downstairs, and like I don't know if it's the house next door or what, but it's like little like knocks and nicks. I mean, it could just be the house settling and moving or whatever.
Could be.
But it happens like often enough to where I'm like, I don't know.
But I'm also not gonna lie and tell you that the times, because Jordan, your sister, and Victoria live not in the same building, but it's the same complex, I guess.
It's built at the same time, so. And
I get uneasy feelings at their place. I don't think I've ever had anything happen, but like there's been times where if we've been out, they might ask me to go. Oh, I've had to go get a charger from there before for them.
Yeah.
Like, here's the key. Just it's upstairs on the thing. I'm like, okay, and I'll get there and like. I wouldn't have watched anything scary all day. Like I've been in a good mood, but I'll walk in and I'll go up to get the key or the charger. I'm sorry, and I'm just like trying to get in and out as quick as I can because I just have such an uneasy feeling.
Yeah.
But see, like half the time I'm like, is that just me being a baby or
just being like, you know, maybe you're somewhere that you're not supposed to be, like not yours kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'll say like Kinley works pretty late sometimes, so she works at 10, but you know, it's an hour drive for her, so she doesn't get home until 11.
Right.
And then she's also spent the night like in, you know, in Lee County before, just because she didn't want to get up so early. But like I've gotten like not necessarily over my fear of the dark, but I've gotten to the point most of the time, especially living in St. Charles after all of that, to where I've been like, yeah, it's dark, I really don't care. Like I've just got this like fake confidence, but like there's something about our house at night, like, and maybe it's just because I've never had stairs before. That's could be a reason. It's like cutting off the lights downstairs, and I'm like, I gotta get upstairs as quickly as possible.
Skip 15 stairs between each bound.
But and then like the newest occurrence has been like the other day when we were talking and we heard that like. You remember like the little click on the stairs?
Yeah.
That's happened a couple of times recently that hasn't like. That's not a sound that has been normal.
Right.
And it makes me feel uneasy. Like I'm just.
How does Persephone, your dog, like? She seemed to.
Oh, she did do something weird the other day. I don't think this was paranormal, but it was strange and out of character for her. She doesn't normally react to those noises. She normally only reacts to like people outside. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of like what's made me feel a little bit better.
Right.
But yesterday, I'll admit we're kind of slobs right now, but we've got like clothes piled at the side of our bed, and I heard her bark, and I was like, that's like her just like attention bark. I was like, whatever, you know. Sometimes she'll do that, right. And I was like doing something, so I was like, I can't pay attention. But she barked again, and I was like, oh, so maybe she needs something. So I walk out of the room, I go into our room. I walk out of the office and I go into our room, and she's just looking at the pile of clothes, like looking. And then she'd get like a little bit closer, and then she'd jump back and bark like something had like lunged at her. Because you've seen her, like how she acts, like whenever you guys had like first come around, she'll kind of sniff you, but if you move, she jumps back. She was doing that. The hair on her back was standing up, and she was just like right at that spot. And I thought, being me, I was like, man, there's like a bug there or something. I don't want to deal with this. And I like kind of like grabbed like the clothes and like moved them, looking for like some
stink bugs.
Yeah, and no, there's nothing there.
It is odd.
It's strange. I don't know. I'm gonna leave here today, and I'm gonna like.
Yeah, no. I'm worried about, because I'm thinking like there's a few animals at my place, and none of them have ever stared at the corner in a menacing way,
And
but I know tonight when I get home, all the animals are gonna go absolutely wild at whatever.
She has been doing this weird thing, but she's been doing this since we've got like she'll just look up at a corner in our bedroom. Just look at it. She won't like act like anything's there. She'll just look at it.
I don't like that.
I don't know.
Have you ever seen Hereditary?
No.
Don't watch it.
Okay.
If you don't want the dog staring up at the corner of the ceiling to absolutely ruin your life, forget I ever mentioned the movie.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know.
Spooky.
It really is.
Okay, so having said all that, I mean, that's all I got,
Yeah, so what's your theory? Like, I know this is where it's going to get tough for me, and I know we've not even talked about cryptids and aliens. We might even do separate episodes.
Yeah, I think that would probably be.
But to round out ghosts and demons, it's going to be difficult for me, I think, because we're harping about, talking about this stuff through the lens of this area. Well, what we have to realize is this area is like heavily, heavily religious.
Yeah.
And like, I grew up going to church for a majority of my life. So like, I believed in heaven and hell. And but at the same time, I guess I believed in ghosts too, because there wasn't a day that I didn't stay with my mama that it was always on a schedule. She would always watch like a haunting, paranormal witness,
Yeah.
and like, and my mama was a pretty religious woman in her own right. She's real kind to everyone. Just
Yeah.
live by the golden rule. And like that stuff would just scare the crap out of me,
Yeah,
because
me
I'm
too.
like, okay, so I do believe that, if you're saved and live right, you're gonna go to heaven. If you're not, you'll go to hell. But I also believe in ghosts. So like, what happens if
Yeah.
you're not good enough to get to heaven, but you're not that bad, so they can't really send you to hell? You just get to be a ghost, I guess. I don't
Yeah.
know or how I tried to like put it together in my head, and I guess I still don't know, but I definitely think that the energy that, like, I'm gonna sound like a freaking hippy dippy here, but like the energy that makes us up, I feel like is so complex that when you die, energy can neither be created nor destroyed or whatever. Like, the energy has to go somewhere.
Yeah.
And I feel like, I don't know. I do believe in ghosts, and I think demons are real too, because
Yeah.
I've heard my fair share of scary story, and it's always the same, like, oh yeah, possession stories. You can chalk that up to like mental illness and stuff, blah blah blah, whatever people's excuses are. But like, when you hear the stories about how these little like 14, 15-year-old kids are saying something to this priest that the priest knows for a fact that no one else could know, like, there's that infamous story of like, and I might butcher the story, but like a priest had done something that morning, like spilled his coffee. It was something like minimal, like, something that happened just in his day that only he would know.
Yeah.
And like, he's performing this exorcism on this little kid, and they're just like, say he did spill coffee on him. Whatever was wrong with this kid, they just looked up at the priest and was like, did that coffee burn, when you spilled it? It's just like, that's probably not the actual story, but little instances like that just make you think. I mean, it's one thing to be a coincidence, but if something's too coincidental, it's almost too coincidental, if that makes sense. I don't know.
See,
but I definitely believe that there's something.
Yeah. I think, religion's hard. Like, I mean, especially being from here, I often question whether or not my beliefs are my own. And I think that I've tried to adapt those to me. Like, I don't know. I really don't like the church, as you would call it, like Christianity, the way that it is today. Like, most Christians are just not Christians. I mean,
yeah, I haven't been to church in a while.
Yeah.
But there was a guy at work yesterday that, I'm not going to repeat what he said because it was kind of some vile stuff, but he was trying to make conversation, and then he said a bunch of like mean, nasty things. Then was like, "You go to church anywhere, bud?" And I was like, "Not right now." He's like, "Well, I pastor a church out here you should come, sometime." And I'm like,
yeah,
damn. But that's a story for another day.
So, I will say that I am like, I call myself a Christian, but I don't. It's like, it's my faith. Like, I guess I'll put it that way. I was going to say,
it all boils down to faith.
It's very personal to me, as in, like, I think that what is actually being, what is actually in the Bible is not what's being practiced.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. I mean, I'm not saying it's not completely, like, a lot of the key points in the Bible I feel like are just being overlooked. So that's my thing. So I'm a Christian in my own way. But to kind of just step outside of that, I think as far like energy, like you said, it kind of has to go somewhere. But
I guess you could say it goes to the ground, like you decompose and that energy gets put into the ground as nutrients. But like,
I don't know.
People have souls.
Yeah.
I mean,
do they have souls?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. People have souls, man.
Yeah.
And when you die, that soul has to go somewhere.
Yeah. But I think, especially with ghosts, it's like, I believe that there's something that's so powerful about leaving this earth that there has to be at least something like left behind.
Yeah.
Like, just to think about death, I mean, it's, it's so hard to, compartmentalize in your head and wrap your head around.
I
Like,
don't think you can.
exactly. So, something that powerful must have, like, leave an imprint on the planet somewhere.
Yeah, because it's the one thing that every living creature, not every human being, but like every living creature has one thing in common, and that's at some point they will perish.
Yeah.
And no living creature, even though everything that has ever lived has also died or will die, but at the same time, even though we all have that in common, no one knows. It's still so like unknown. And there is something pretty powerful about that. I would also think that it has to have some sort of ripple.
Yeah. And then, so I mean, that's kind of as far as that goes. And then demons, like, I mean, this is like pretty religious, but I mean, like, I think if you believe that there is a hell, there has to be demons.
If you're faithful enough to believe in the good guys, you also have to know that the bad guys are there too.
Yeah. And then outside of religion, I mean, like, twisted people exist, and if you're going to believe in ghosts, then you got to believe that there's some twisted evil person who has died and was like, well, it's time to do it all again.
Yeah, I mean,
and then I think the thing that I think about most, and I actually got this from Scared to Death because I say it a lot, is like only one instance has to be true.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there could be a million fakes, but if there's one instance where something definitely happened and it's definitely true, that changes so much.
Yeah. That notion is why I'm excited for us to talk about aliens in the next few episodes. Because that's something too that's like as long or as soon as like one thing is found or like one document becomes declassified, then everything's changed.
Okay. So, anything else you have to add to that?
I will say thank you to the Nest, first of all. UVA Wise graciously is allowing us to use this little studio that they have. It's called the Nest to record in. But I will say that I've never had bad feelings about this place. What time is it? It's kind of late into the night. I will say I'm kind of spooked.
Yeah, I'm bad time to do this.
It's an unfamiliar space.
Yeah.
That I'm very thankful to be able to be using, but at the same time,
it's not a lot creepier.
Yeah, I feel like when we pack up and leave here, it's gonna be see who can run out the door quicker, and I live walking distance, so
somebody's gotta turn off the lights.
Yeah, Will's gonna lock the door and turn around, and there's gonna be a puff of smoke in the shape of like my running body, and he's gonna see me down the sidewalk. But this was fun. I'm glad.
Yeah, I think it was a solid first episode.
I think so too.
I mean, things will get streamlined a little bit. Of course, we've got a lot of growing to do, but
right, got to start somewhere.
Yeah. So this is the first episode of What's Your Theory?
What's your theory? And as I'm sure we're going to be talking about a whole lot of theories down the road, but once we get a little more, once we get our foundation a little more sturdy, it'd be awesome for people to eventually send in some theories of their own that we can talk about. I'd love to talk more about like local things, maybe local theories. The Curse of St. Charles, maybe.
The curse we gotta investigate the Curse of St. Charles.
I'm gonna research that some.
Okay.
Yeah, well, this was fun. I guess until next time.
I appreciate anybody who chose to listen this far.
Yeah, if you like to hear us talk about ghosts and phantoms and phantasms and specters, I assume the next couple episodes of this will be tackling the other two of the big three, like cryptids.
What next will be cryptids?
Yeah, cryptids maybe next. If you like the wood booger or the Bigfoot, as the wood booger is, I guess, his colloquial name in this area. Goes by many names that Sasquatch does.
Sasquatch man.
Yeah, but if that sounds interesting and you like this, tune into our next episode.
That's right.
Talk about some cryptids and maybe come down to the brass tacks on is the Sasquatch real or not?
Sasquatch real? Chupacabra?
Skinwalkers?
I'm
excited to talk about skinwalkers.
I think that there's so much to talk about. We're gonna have plenty of episodes of this. But yeah, hope if you enjoyed it, hit whatever button is like, upvote, review. I don't know where we'll have this. Spotify, YouTube.
Click the good button.
Yeah.
The bad button doesn't exist, so.
Yeah, we took away the bad button, so you didn't have to.
Exactly.
Okay. All right.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.
Bye-bye.